Naomi Ellis stepped out of the jeep and into the heart of opulence itself, a desert safari camp so grand it seemed to shimmer under the scorching desert sun. Her outfit, a faded pair of khaki shorts, an old sunburned shirt, and well-worn sandals, stood in stark contrast to the extravagance before her. Breathing deeply, she inhaled the rich aroma of exotic spices mingling with the fragrance of fine perfumes. Around her, tents draped in silk and gold glittered in the sun, and the air vibrated with the soft notes of traditional Arabic music. As Naomi took a hesitant step forward, her presence did not go unnoticed. Elegant patrons, clad in designer desert wear and adorned with glittering jewelry, turned their gazes towards her with disdain. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd, derisive comments about her sunburned skin, her practical attire, and her seemingly awkward presence in such a lavish setting. A nearby group of women exchanged sneers, one of them whispering loudly enough for Naomi to hear, "Did she walk here from the market?" The safari host, a man of impeccable appearance dressed in a crisp white dishdasha, was quick to notice Naomi. His eyes swept over her with cold suspicion, noting every detail, the sunburn across her cheeks, her slightly askew hat, her scuffed sandals. His judgment was palpable. Nearby, a woman jeeringly questioned if Naomi was part of the cleaning staff, drawing mocking laughter from her companions. Another guest chuckled, remarking on the starkness of Naomi's presence amidst the luxury, questioning aloud how someone so out of place could have possibly ended up here. Naomi, sensing the weight of disdain around her, braced herself against the humiliation, determined to remain composed even as the crowd subtly excluded her. The safari host, with his polished demeanor and clipped accent, approached Naomi with an air of unyielding professionalism. "Excuse me, miss, can I assist you with something? Are you lost?" His words were wrapped in a veneer of courtesy, but Naomi could feel the cold disdain beneath. Naomi replied with as much composure as she could muster, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "No, I'm here for the Sunset Dhow ride and the cultural event this evening." His smile grew tighter, insincere warmth barely concealing irritation. "I see," he said slowly, "but I'm afraid I don't see your name on our guest list. Perhaps you're mistaken or found yourself a bit lost after wandering through the marketplace." There was a ripple of laughter from those within earshot. The host stepped a shade closer, observing Naomi with narrowed eyes. "You'll understand, of course, that this is a private, invitation-only event. We maintain certain, standards here." Naomi felt the heat of shame rising in her cheeks, blending with the sting of her sunburn. She fumbled in her pocket for the invitation, crumpled and worn from the day's travel, but before she could present it, the host gestured dismissively. "Why don't you wait by the camels while we sort this out?" "They're just over there," he suggested, guiding her away from the plush, shaded tents and towards a patch of loose sand adorned with tufts of scrub. The area she was led to was barren compared to the opulence she'd briefly stood in. Rough and uneven, it emphasized her exclusion, a world away from the silken luxury enjoyed by the others. As she settled onto a low rock, the embarrassment pressed upon her like the intolerable desert heat. Behind her, she could hear guests snapping photos and recording videos, the scene playing out as entertainment to their privileged aesthetics. The same young woman from earlier remarked in a hushed but pointed voice, meant to carry just far enough for Naomi to hear, she probably thought Dhow ride was a bus ticket. Another voice nearby added derisively, "Look at her sunburn. You'd think she'd have learned the need for sunscreen in the desert." A group of guests pointed their phones at Naomi, capturing her discomfort for their amusement, while others merely shook their heads, content to stay silent but judgmental. Naomi swallowed hard, willing herself to stay calm, her heart thudding heavily against her ribs. As minutes dragged into an eternity, she knew she could not simply remain passive without losing completely. Her fingers tightened around the invitation in her pocket. It was proof of her right to be there, and yet, she could not bring herself to pull it out again amidst all the venomous scrutiny. Just as she entertained the thought of leaving, slinking away and letting this moment fester as a memory, a different sort of chaos broke into the atmosphere. The laughter and ridicule were suddenly interrupted by the arrival of a sharply dressed young man, distinguishable by the emblem of the Sheik's house embroidered on his attire. He moved with a sense of urgency, drawing a path straight to Naomi. The crowd's scornful whispers faded abruptly, curiosity piqued and attention riveted on this new development. "Miss Ellis, I presume?" he inquired with a bow, correcting the misunderstanding of her status with his respectful address. "I am to escort you to the Sheik. He requests your immediate presence in the main pavilion." His voice was smooth, authoritative, and most importantly, respectful, everything she hadn't felt since stepping into the camp. The change in atmosphere was palpable. Naomi detected the shift in energy around her. Eyes that once skewered her now widened in surprise and disbelief. The patron's entertained gazes morphed first to confusion, then to mortified realization. The ripple of recognition spread as wide as the silk fabric of the tents swaying in the breeze. The host, the very man who had so callously dismissed her, went rigid. His eyes, once filled with condescending amusement, now sparked with confusion and fear. The color slowly drained from his face as the reality of his blunder settled in, that the woman he had disdained might be neither a tourist nor a fraud, but someone of genuine importance. As Naomi was guided back through the sea of silk and whispers, she felt the weight of her own self-respect returning. She straightened her shoulders, clinging to that thread of dignity she had so desperately tried to protect earlier. The group of mockers leaned into each other, their conversation turning to panicked mumbles, eager to erase their cutting words. It was a walk, a revelatory stride through the camp she hadn't chosen but now embraced, back into the heart of the gathering where moments ago she had been unwelcome. As the young staff member led Naomi toward the central pavilion, eyes followed her every step. The host was rooted to his spot, mouth agape, trapped between the scrutiny of his peers and his own sputtering ego. The realization of their oversight and prejudice lingered in the air like dust settling, a haze that hung above the crowd, uncomfortable and thick with unspoken apologies. Naomi did not gloat as she passed them, nor did she acknowledge the situation's upheaval with more than a gracious nod. She knew that her presence, her voice, and the truth of who she was would serve enough of a lesson. As she disappeared into the intricately detailed pavilion, the world shifted on its axis. For her, it was merely a return to the dignity she had arrived with. For those left staring, it was the start of discomfort unraveling arrogance, a lesson in the humility found through a sunburned stranger's silent resilience. In a corner of the opulent safari camp, tucked away from the chatter of guests, the safari host found refuge in his private office, a small, intricately decorated space that represented his sanctuary of authority and control over the event. As he leaned back in his chair, pride tempered the growing unease from the scene that had just unfolded. He spoke to his assistant, perched on the edge of a chair opposite him, eyes expectant. "We must maintain the prestige of this event, after all," the host declared, his voice all silk and ice. "It's imperative to sift out those who may sully the Sheik's reputation." "I was only doing what was necessary." His assistant, younger and less assured, nodded tentatively, sensing the unsteadiness behind the assertion but unwilling to challenge the established hierarchy. "Of course, sir. You've always ensured the highest standards." The host forced a smile, though it faltered. He thought back to Naomi's poise amid humiliation and it unsettled him, even if he wouldn't admit it. "We'll keep an eye on her," he added, dismissing the conversation with a wave. "Let's ensure no further interruptions." Back at the heart of the camp, laughter had resumed, blending seamlessly with the gentle rhythm of Arabic beats and the delicate clinking of glasses. The air was rich with reconciliation, the patrons seeking refuge in the comfort of consistency, willing the earlier disruption into oblivion. Naomi sat alone beside the pavilion, hidden by the cool shadows but very much a part of the evening's fabric. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she rubbed her sunburned arms absent-mindedly, its sting nothing compared to the fresh bruises to her spirit. Her fingers unfurled slowly, revealing the invitation crumpled in her fist, its creased edges a testament to her right to be here. The memory of those mocking voices looped in her mind, lacing the thrill of the Sheik's welcome with a lingering bitterness. She couldn't easily dismiss the humiliation, though her public demeanor remained largely unfazed. Behind the facade, Naomi battled the tide of emotions, anger and hurt, and reminded herself why she was here. She recalled arriving on the arid winds of this expansive desert, drawn by its beauty but also its promises. Naomi Ellis, a visionary entrepreneur championing sustainable tourism, had seen more than an exclusive escape in this place. She had seen potential. She had come to enhance the synergy between luxury and ecological preservation, a marriage rooted in respect for the land, not merely as another picturesque backdrop. These convictions had powered her success, a path unencumbered by the trappings of appearance. And yet, today made clear how fragile perception was, how easily it wavered on a stranger's whim. She was still processing these thoughts when the rustle of footsteps on sand interrupted her solitude. A formal young man, dressed impeccably, carrying an air of urgency, bowed slightly as he addressed her again. "Miss Ellis, apologies for the earlier incident," he began, sincerity woven into each word. "People are gathered. The Sheik desires your presence for the evening's presentation." Naomi nodded, slipping the invitation back into her pocket, where it seemed less a token of permission and more a reminder of belonging. She pushed aside her introspection, standing taller. "Thank you," she replied, her voice regaining its clarity and strength. "Let's not keep anyone waiting." Guided once more into the camp's heart, a space now much warier of assuming what it saw, the atmosphere shifted palpably. Conversations hushed as Naomi entered the grand pavilion, eyes tracking her movement, curiosity piqued by the unknown story this woman carried. On stage, the Sheik, a charismatic figure of respect and warmth, waited. His robes shimmered in the lantern light, and he gestured for Naomi to join him with a broad, inviting smile meant to dissolve the tension of earlier. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice encompassing the crowd with its warmth, "I am honored to present a partner whose vision breathes life into our desert's future. Please welcome Naomi Ellis, pioneer investor and architect of our sustainable frontier." The words hung in the air, their weight undeniable. All eyes turned to Naomi, the woman they had dismissed, now defined by her story rather than their assumptions. Naomi stepped forward, her presence magnetic, her journey through the camp transforming from a spectacle of ridicule to one of respect. The Sheik's introduction had peeled away disenchantment, unveiling the truth of the woman before them. A singular gasp rose from the audience, the sound amplifying disbelief and regret as their misconceived narratives unraveled. Watching from the side, the host's features tightened with shame, recognized by peers now throwing glances laden with judgment and disapproval his way. His authority crumbled under the truth of his error, his role as gatekeeper lost to the reality of his own prejudice. Naomi spoke with a steady voice that resonated across the tent. "Thank you, Your Excellency. This isn't merely an event for leisure, it's a commitment to this land's beauty and our responsibility towards it." Her words, resonant and carefully chosen, echoed within each mind present. She highlighted her work and passion, her inexhaustible commitment to making the places she invests in a harmony of progress and preservation. She shared insights into her choice of attire, a gesture toward understanding the environment she celebrated rather than eclipsing it with ornamentation. As she spoke, the scoffing snickers and disdain of earlier melted into an undercurrent of admiration and introspection. Faces once alight with jest now reflected serious contemplation of the values being extolled by Naomi, a reflection of the values their luxurious facades often forgot to embrace. Some heads bowed, silent apologies emerging in the quiet acts of attentiveness and understanding. The evening became infused with a sense of redemption, not through spoken words but through an unspoken acknowledgement, a reassembly of fragmented perceptions. Naomi's presence on that stage, under the starlit canopy, turned this desert evening into something more than an event. She remained the catalyst for reflection, her integrity transforming skepticism into respect within moments. The host, through the parted crowd, lingered on the edges, absorbing the shame that buried deeper with each moment of Naomi's gracious poise. His role in this event would continue but would forever be tinged with the lessons taught by humility and respect. Naomi's courage, cloaked in a sunburned shirt and tattered hat, radiated a light far more profound than the lantern's combined glow, leaving its mark on all who bore witness, transforming the desert's golden sands into the foundation for something truly extraordinary. Naomi's words lingered in the air, fusing with the slow cadence of desert winds, sinking deep into the heart of each listener gathered under the tent. The audience, once dismissive, now clung to her every sentence. The Sheik gestured her to continue, his pride in the partnership unmistakable. Naomi took a breath, allowing her gaze to sweep over the sea of faces before her, gauging their expressions. Every pair of eyes was on her, anticipation woven into the silence. With composed confidence, Naomi began to share her vision for the Desert Safari Initiative, illustrating plans for renewable energy integrations and eco-friendly accommodations that left minimal environmental impact, an embodiment of luxury tethered to sustainability. Preservation must complement exploration, she declared, her voice resonant. For this is a land steeped in stories and life, which deserves to flourish alongside our dreams for it. Her narrative flowed effortlessly, painting a future where innovation harmonized with tradition. She spoke not from a place of rote memorization but from the depths of experience and passionate commitment. Her soul reflected a belief in beauty untouched by greed's corruption. The tent, filled with light laughter and distant notes of traditional oud, was now a bastion of learning, an unexpected shift from its original aura of indulgent leisure. Patrons, once indulging whispers of mockery, now held pens poised over notepads, eager to absorb the insights shared by a woman they had greatly underestimated. As Naomi concluded with a call for collective commitment to conscientious development, polite applause gave way to enthusiastic clapping, punctuated by scattered cheers, a profound endorsement of her ideals and leadership. Amidst this collective admiration, the safari host clung quietly to the pavilion's edge, watching the transformation unfold. Discomfort festered within him, blending with the unfamiliar note of regret. His earlier judgment now loomed like a specter in this realm of unveiled truth. The moment reached a pinnacle when the Sheik, with grand gestures, echoed his appreciation for Naomi. "It is such wisdom and grace which heralds our journey to a brighter horizon," he intoned, voice rich with sincerity. "Miss Ellis represents not only a partnership but a paradigm we must all aspire to embody." At that moment, attention once more returned to Naomi. The guests, compelled by the Sheik's generosity, surged forward to convey newfound respect, offering apologies and well-earned congratulations. This was no simple goodwill, it was an acceptance wrapped in gratitude. The fashionably dressed woman who had questioned Naomi's presence near the entrance approached, hesitance etched into her demeanor. "I'm sorry," she began awkwardly, "for the things I said earlier. I didn't realize." Naomi offered a serene smile, a silent extension of leniency. "We all learn." Her voice was gentle, free from rebuke. Another guest, previously part of the quipping group, murmured a similar apology, regret shadowing his proud facade. "Your perspective is inspiring." "It truly is." Around them, the once gilded cages of privilege shifted into fields of possibility, a metamorphosis of perceptions captured in the sincerity of simple words. The realization carried an immense weight, even more tangible than the luxury that surrounded them. This understanding, the core of what it meant to respect one's environment and community, shone through, elevated by Naomi's poise. Throughout the evening, Naomi maneuvered through the gestures and conversations, no air of gloating in her step. She did not linger or claim superiority, her actions unwittingly created a balanced exchange of ideas. As formal speeches turned to casual mingling, Naomi found herself beside the Sheik. He examined the room, satisfaction softening his regal features. "You have ignited a spark tonight, a reminder of why we chose this path." "It's a partnership that benefits all," Naomi replied, allowing gratitude to convey the weight of her sincerity. "Thank you for empowering this vision." The Sheik nodded, his expression one of wisdom tempered by the acknowledgement of his own journey. "This night shall echo across seasons to come." As the evening wore on, the guests lingered, eyeing artisanal keepsakes, tasting locally grown delicacies, all seemingly more connected, each interaction laden now with the depth of Naomi's message. Though the lingering sunset bathed the sand dunes in its rich, amber glow, the pavilion pulsed with a new energy, a fusion of culture and modernity Naomi had so fervently championed. It was an ending tinged with tranquility, stability forged anew in enlightenment. Such was the reward for staying the course, embodying the expedition of spirit across uncharted paths. Naomi stood back, observing the effects unfold upon the present. Faces once set into derision basked in the glow of camaraderie and critique, each intent molded by learned understanding, where before only idle comfort lay. Summoning the courage to reflect, Naomi embraced the now seamless blend of elegance and simplicity about her, a testament to her goals as well as the profound change she'd independently ushered forth. Her journey through the dense layers of judgment had peeled back veils of ignorance, leaving a trail imbued with respect and knowledge, a calling card left upon the shifting sands. For the guests, the camp would never again be simply an oasis. It had transformed into an evolving promise to hold onto ideals above mere glistening baubles. Though her appearance remained unchanged, the elegance of Naomi's understated warpath glimmered. Clad in experience and a sunburn indistinguishable under desert hues, she walked a path unchanged yet entirely unbound. Feet brushing sand that resettled with each step, she could feel the overwhelming sense of solidarity emerge from beneath assumptions. It was evident not just through the eyes meeting hers, but through the lightness in the air around them all. With her influence, Naomi had planted something more timeless than memories, more enduring than man-made stars beneath the great canopy. She had instilled in them a vision of evolution that would forever unspool across the flowering desert. As the evening event began to wind down, the atmosphere thrummed with newfound energy. It was as if the desert itself had shifted beneath their feet, rearranging the grains of understanding amongst those who gathered. Naomi's presence, quiet and steadfast, had left an indelible impression on the whole camp. The Sheik, knowing the impact of the night, decided to culminate the evening with a gesture that would not only honor Naomi's contributions but reinforce the desert safari's new ethos. He took the stage once more, commanding the full attention of the attendees. His voice, sonorous and full of purpose, cut through the ambient murmur. In light of tonight's inspiring engagement, and with gratitude for the lessons in humility and grace presented, I wish to declare this event not simply a celebration of luxury but a testimony to our shared responsibility. A hush fell over the audience as his words sank in. He turned his gaze towards the safari host, standing tense and uncertain at the periphery. However, we must first address that our hosts reflect the values we hold dear. The exclusion and treatment of one of our principal guests is a grave misstep we cannot overlook. With those words, the Sheik effectively ended the host's tenure at the event, his dismissal an unequivocal statement. The room's previous amiability turned to whispers, conversations quickly pivoting away from Naomi's earlier mistake to the consequences now unfolding for the host. Finding himself the center of a far less flattering spectacle, the safari host's face darkened with the flush of embarrassment. For him, this public acknowledgement of his failure was more jarring than the whispers that now surrounded him. As he was gently escorted away by staff members, a palpable tension slackened, allowing the collective spirit to realign, solidarity securing its place within the group's consciousness. Naomi observed this play out, empathy tempered with fairness. She had not wished for such consequences, but understood the necessity to fortify the values she embodied. There was a silent acknowledgement in her gaze as she watched him leave, a reflection of the lessons he, too, would carry forward. The crowd's attention then returned to the Sheik, who resumed with warmer tones, weaving bridges from this potential fracture. Let us not forget the strides we have made tonight, strides towards a future where respect and progress serve as the cornerstones of our endeavors. The sense of communal acceptance swiftly supplanted the prior disquiet. Guests lingered in animated discussions about sustainable practices, exploring creative ways to integrate Naomi's vision into their respective spheres. The event, poised for disrepute, became a crucible for change. Naomi, mingling among the now cordial attendees, received genuine conversation instead of calculated pleasantries. Each exchange further solidified the evening's lessons, with conversations rooted in admiration for her courage and foresight. No longer was she viewed through the lens of her attire but through the jewel of her insights. Amidst the shifting tides of approval, she found herself approached by the former host. His approach was hesitant, the once proud shoulders now visibly weighed by the knowledge of his errors. Despite his predicament, he carried himself with a measure of respectful contrition. "Miss Ellis," he began, pausing to marshal his thoughts. His voice carried no arrogance, only the tentative hope of reconciliation. "I am truly sorry for how you were treated earlier. It was presumptive and against the very spirit we hope to embody. Your presence here was necessary to show us how to be better." Naomi met his gaze, her expression one of measured empathy. "Thank you for your words," she replied gently. In that moment, neither bitterness nor triumph altered her tone. Learning and change require honesty and humility. This applies to us all. The simplicity and sincerity of her response offered the former host a chance at redemption, if not publicly then internally. Despite his errant judgment, Naomi extended the healing touch of understanding. As they parted ways, Naomi felt the familiar warmth of respect, one not dictated by position but earned through genuine connection and mutual recognition of their shared humanity. As the evening end approached, guests began to depart with an aura of reflection surrounding them. Sentiments hung loosely, suspended in the desert breeze, leaving behind echoes of the transformation. Naomi, now walking purposefully across the sand, took in the vast expanse of the desert under a moonlit sky. Her steps were unhurried, mindful, weighed with the night's experiences. Each stride across the cooled sands felt like an affirmation of her journey, the woman in a sunburned shirt, whose story transcended the superficial gaze of a society obsessed with appearances. The final image rested in the minds of all who had gathered, the stark desert silhouette painted against an indigo sky streaked with stars. Naomi disappeared into the fluid landscape, leaving behind a vibrant embroidery of lessons and ties that breached the former divide among personalities and perceptions. In the wake of her retreat, the camp's air was palpable with the change, energized, invigorated. It was more than a gathering, it was a promise to uphold the values seeded by Naomi's grace and wisdom. The dunes, silent and still, bore witness to the unfolding of ideals planted that evening, ideals that would continue to unfurl with each dawn, reshaping the legacy of the desert safari, intertwined with the relentless pursuit of harmony and understanding. Each story shared, each connection forged carved pathways in the sand, eternal echoes of a night where judgment gave way to enlightenment. And so, as Naomi Ellis walked away, the emblem of quiet power and transformative vision, echoes absorbed under the starlit sanctuary, forever imprinted upon the sand she had touched.